Alrighty guys, we are back with a Football Manager 2021 experiment video, and the reason we're experimenting this because Neil Francis Lennon is absolute pish. He could not get the job done. He could not get 10 in a row over the line. He couldn't do it, but we're going to find out today if someone else could have done it, and that someone else is the god that currently manages Scotland, the guy that has took us to a major tournament, the guy that has fucking replaced William Wallace himself, and that is Sir Steve, can't even get his name right, Sir Steve Clarke. So there you go. What a guy. Go and subscribe to him on YouTube and all that shit. Go follow him on Facebook. Steve Clarke, what a guy, what a legend. I mean, I don't know what's more impressive, getting the shitest team in national football known as Scotland to a major tournament, or basically scoring more points than Celtic with Kilmarnock over a calendar year. I mean, both of them are tremendous. Look what's happened to Kilmarnock since Steve Clarke left. They went to shit. They're relegation fodder. They're going down. They're going to be a championship team. And what's going to happen to Scotland when Steve Clarke eventually leaves us? Probably be back at the level of San Marino or some shit like that. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Kilmarnock. We're not here to talk about Scotland. We're here to talk about Celtic, because they want 10 in a row. Now, Lennon obviously couldn't get the job done, but I think Steve Clarke might. So here we go. Neil Francis Lennon has left his position. I say left, he's been sacked. The Celtic board have had enough. They've seen how shit he was. Then they got in a time machine, and they rewinded the time machine back to the start of the season, and they thought, you know what? We ain't going to let Rangers come from League 2 all the way up to steal our 10 in a row. Then we're not going to do that. We're going to use this time machine, get rid of Neil Lennon and bring in Steve Clarke. So let's see how that works out for them. So you can see Gustavo Poyet is going to be the favourite to get the Celtic job, but he ain't getting the Celtic job. You want to know why? Because this guy's getting it. There he is. Sir Steve Clarke. What a legend. He is getting the Celtic job. Celtic have confirmed the appointment of Steve Clarke. Eyebrows have been raised. Why would eyebrows be raised? The guy's a living god, fuck's sake. Who recently spent time away from club football. He is sure to face plenty of questions. Clarke put pen to paper on a 2-year deal worth 11 point. Jesus Christ, was Lennon no getting like 50 a week, and they're paying Clarke peanuts in comparison? That's a joke. If I was Clarke, I would leave right now. Jurgen Klinsmann was considered to be the favourite. What the fuck is happening here, guys? That's mad. I don't understand that. How can he be getting a fifth of the money Neil Lennon's getting when he's got about 10 times the talent? It makes no sense. So it looks like Steve Clarke has made his starting 11, and this seems to be the choice he's going with. So he's favouring Bain over Barkas, and I absolutely agree with that, man, 100%. Laxalt, Bitten. I mean, Shane Duffy at centre-back just seems like you want to lose the league. I mean, that seems like you're just handing Rangers 10, but you know what? It is what it is. But I guess we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Steve Clarke knows what he's doing. I obviously don't know shit. I'm just some loser that plays Football Manager. Steve Clarke does the real thing. We've got Frimpong at right back, Brown and McGregor in the middle of the field, Elyounoussi on the left, Forrest on the right, Rogic in the cam role, and Edouard up front. Now, obviously, this will get changed throughout the season depending on fitness and form and all that shit, but for now, it looks like that is Steve Clarke's preferred 11, and that is the 11 that he is wanting to help him win the league. Now, here is Celtic's fixture list, just like real life. It's the exact same. They do not play Rangers until the 17th of October. And what we're going to do is, guys, we're going to sim all the way up to the 17th of October. We're going to see what the result of the Old Firm game was. We're going to see how the table's looking. And we're going to see if Neil Lennon had done a better job than Steve Clarke. Let's find out. And surprise, surprise, Steve Clarke's first Old Firm game in charge doesn't go any better than Neil Lennon's. Well, slightly better. I guess they only got beat by 1-0, but still, it is a defeat at Celtic Park. Rangers with a 1-0 win. A single goal for Roof. Celtic did have some success 47 minutes into the game when Barkas got injured, but unfortunately that couldn't get them a goal up front. It only prevented them from conceding more, and then Greg Taylor got booked late on, so not a lot happening there. Celtic went with a 4-4-2, Edouard and Ajeti up front. I mean, they've got decent ratings, even though they didn't really score or do anything of note. Rangers went with a 4-3-3, and obviously worked there with Roof, Kent, Morelos up front were too much for Celtic. But I guess you could stick fucking Kyle Laffy up front in his own. It would still be too much for Barkas. Now let's find out, guys, where this result puts Celtic in the Scottish Premiership. And it looks like that win for Rangers was enough to put them top of the table. So they have a 2-point lead, but it seems like Steve Clarke is faring better than Neil Lennon was at this point of the season. They were ahead of Rangers going into that Old Firm game, which is I guess, pretty good from their perspective, but now they trail by 2 points. Slightly better goal difference with the plus 18 compared to Rangers 17, but it looks like this could be a very, very close title race. So far, Stephen Clarke definitely done a better job than Neil Lennon. Let's fast forward to the next Old Firm game and see if anything changes. And here we go, second Old Firm game of the season. This time better for Celtic, away to Rangers at Ibrox, should I say. And they got a point, they got a draw of it. So you know what? That is no bad. Well, I say it's no bad. It depends what league table. If Celtic are ahead or close to Rangers, then I guess the draw is no bad. But if they're miles behind, then they probably need it to win that. Again, Celtic seem to edge the chances. I mean, 14 shots to 8. It looks like they were slightly the better team, but couldn't get over the line. Just going with basic 4-4-2. I don't know if that's really working for them or not. This time they dropped a Jetty for Griffiths up front, and Rangers with a familiar formation, the 4-3-3. Although they played Defoe, I don't even think was Morelos there. No, it doesn't look like Morelos was there, so Morelos maybe injured. We don't know. We'll have a quick look at that. But let's see what the Scottish Premiership League table looks like now, as we are on the 3rd of January and we've had 2 Old Firm games played. And we can see that Rangers actually have a 5-point lead now over Celtic. And they are currently top, obviously. Goal difference is exactly the same. So 5 points is the gap between both teams. There's still 16 games to go. So that draw isn't going to end the season. Celtic can still achieve 10 here, but it's going to be hard. They need to start getting wins from somewhere. Rangers have been pretty phenomenal. Kind of similar to real life, albeit they do have one loss to their name, which was away against Aberdeen. But apart from that, Rangers having a great season. The only draws are coming against Celtic, Hibs and Livingston. Look at that, they were all 0-0 draws. Apart from that, and Rangers have been on absolute fire, rarely conceding and pretty much beating everyone. So Rangers running away with it. Celtic trying to hold on. Goals, Jetty actually leads the way with 13 goals. Holy shit, that's a lot. Edouard in second place with 11. Morelos in third place with 9. Morelos has been the best player in terms of rating this season so far. We're halfway through and he's got a 7.85, followed by Roof with a 7.76 and McGregor with a 7.6. Cal McGregor leads the assists for Celtic with 6 and Edouard with the most man of the matches with 5. So, I mean, Celtic can still do it, but they are trailing a wee bit. Let's see how they've been getting on though in Europe. So their Champions League campaign came to an end in the second qualifying round. Convincing 6-0 win over Riga in the first qualifying round, but then a disappointing loss to Midtjylland in the second by 1-0. They then went into the Europa League qualifying path, the 4th round, and they beat Linfield first 3-0 in the third qualifying round. Then they beat Fenerbahce in the 4th round to qualify for the Europa League group stages, and let's see how they got on in their group. So they actually topped the group with 11 points, a group with Dynamo Kiev, Lask and Nice. And how does that set them up here for the first knockout round then? Who did they draw? Who did they get? They've been given CSK Moscow, so an away trip to Russia. Interesting, but they're doing pretty well, guys. Only 5 points off Rangers and they're still in Europe, which the Celtic fans would bite your hand after that this season. So let's see how they progress now. We'll move on to the next Old Firm match. Alright, we are back for the 3rd Old Firm game of the season. This time it looks like Rangers were the superior team. Maybe having some help there from Christopher Julian being sent off in the 17th minute. That was with Rangers having a 1-0 lead. Rangers probably feel like they should have held it and won it, but no. Celtic got back into the game and they ended up getting a draw with a Christopher Adger goal. So, you know what, that is fair play to Celtic coming back with 10 men, getting a point. But the question is, last time we checked this, Rangers had a 5-point lead. Is that point at Celtic Park good enough for Celtic to still have a chance of 10 in a row? We'll check now. We'll have a look and see what the fixtures are like, what the points table is like. But, I mean, Julian massively letting his side down there. I've got a feeling Celtic probably needed all 3 points. But let's go and see how the table's looking. And there you can see that Rangers and Celtic now 7 points separating both teams. Celtic have fallen further behind Rangers here in this title race. There is only 6 games remaining, 18 points available. It doesn't look like Steve Clarke's going to get the job done here. They've lost 4 games away. They've lost away to St Johnstone, away to Kilmarnock, and away to Livingston. Obviously, they had that home defeat to Rangers. Rangers still only that 1 defeat all season, and that was against Aberdeen. Speaking of Aberdeen, they're way down in 6th place. Holy shit, I'll be surprised if McKinns hasn't been sacked yet. Aberdeen on free fall at the moment. They were at the start. They were pretty close to the Old Firm, but now they're just going the wrong way, man. They're in reverse. They're no there. They're no up the top where they want to be. They're back out in the bottom, shagging sheep instead. So they need to get their way back up there to try and shag the Old Firm. But at the moment they're right in the bottom, mid-table mediocrity. But anyway, Celtic 7 points behind. They've got one better goal difference, but that won't matter a shit. They need to claw 7 points back for Rangers. They've got one more Old Firm game to do it, plus the top 6 split. That should mean that the top 6 teams are all better than the bottom 6 and that they're playing each other, and that should mean there's more chance for Rangers to drop points, but it also means it's going to be harder for Celtic to win points. Now we'll all have a look and see what Celtic have been doing in Europe. So Celtic did manage to get past CSK Moscow in the first knockout round, but unfortunately, second knockout round, they ran into Villarreal and they've been dumped out of the competition. A 2-2 draw at Celtic Park, followed up by a devastating 3-0 defeat away from home in Spain. And just simply not good enough. Villarreal dominating Celtic and deserved winners in the end. So Celtic's European journey is gone, but it did last a lot longer than it did in real life. Domestically though, in terms of the Scottish Cup and the Betfred Cup, Celtic have actually done alright here. We can see they did indeed win the Betfred Cup final against Hibernian. So that is good. I mean, potentially they're still in for another treble. I mean, this could be five, a cinquet treble. What do you call 5? Is it cinquet or some shit like that? I don't know. But Celtic could be looking at 5 trebles in a row here. They beat Hibs 3-2 in the final. Rangers are familiar with 3-2 scorelines against Hibs in the final, but normally it doesn't go their way. But this time it went Celtic's way, and they have been crowned Betfred Cup champions. Still 7 points behind Rangers, though, in the league. That will be hurting them massively. Oh no, look at that. Scottish Cup third round. They got drawn against Rangers and they've been knocked out. We didn't see that one. Jesus Christ, things just go from bad to worse. A Jetty as well put them ahead at Old Firm. Fuck me, at Old Park. It's Ibrox. Fuck me, right? Ibrox, yes. A Jetty put them ahead at Ibrox, and then goals from Morelos and Hadji brought it back. So there you go. Disappointing. Very disappointing. Out of the third round of the Scottish Cup, the domestic stranglehold on all the titles is over, but there's still one title left to play for. That is the Scottish Premiership. And can Steve Clarke turn it around? I mean, look at Celtic's form there in the league. That is simply not good enough. You can see from that game against Dundee United there on the last day of December that they drew 4 games in a row. And at that stage, they must have been pretty damn close to Rangers in the league. And then 4 draws in a row, man, that is simply not good enough. One of them was against Rangers, but Dundee United, Livingston and Hibernian all taking points off Celtic. And then, Jesus Christ, and then, look at that, then they lost 2 games out of 3 there with Kilmarnock and St Johnstone. So I'm going to assume that around the end of December, I think Celtic probably would have been ahead in the league table. But they've had a terrible run here of form, and that has led to, obviously, them going behind Rangers in the table. Steve Clarke's still in charge. He's been there for 254 days. He has won a cup. He's got a win percentage of 62%. I mean, it's not bad, but is that good enough? Is a 62% win ratio good enough to secure 10 in a row? I don't think so. We're now going to skip to the end of the season, guys, and we're going to see if Celtic and Steve Clarke have done it, or we're going to see if Steven Gerrard has prevailed, regardless of who the Celtic manager is. It is all over, and Rangers have been crowned champions. They have stopped 10 in a row. Steve Clarke tried his best, but his best wasn't good enough, and unfortunately he could only manage to get Celtic second with a points tally of 83 points. But there was a wee bit of success towards the end of the season for Steve Clarke, especially in terms of the Old Firm game. In the Championship group match against Rangers, they did go to Ibrox and they beat them 3-1. By this stage, the league table was down to just 2 points. So they had a really good chance here, but in the penultimate game of the season against Aberdeen, Celtic lost by 2-1 at Pittodrie, and that ended the title hopes right there. Had Celtic won it, they'd have took it right to the last day. The gap would have still been 2 points, and maybe Rangers would have bottled it, maybe Rangers would have slipped up. Stevie G is known for slipping up, and maybe it would have happened again, but it didn't happen, because the Sheepshaggers Aberdeen shagged Steve Clarke's hole, and that meant he's no lifting 10 in a row. So there you go, guys. Wee bit of rhyming in there and everything, and that is pretty much it then. Let's see here. Is there anything to recap before we end this video. Steve Clarke couldn't get 10 in a row for Celtic, unfortunately for him. I think that's it though. What stats? What team overview? Most points per game was Rangers 2.3. Most goals Celtic had 79. Most shots for was Celtic 577. Fewest shots against was Rangers. There seems to be Rangers most clean sheets. Fewest conceded Rangers. So Rangers seem to be a lot better defensively than Celtic. But Celtic seem to be a bit better going forward. But in the end, none of those stats really matter. The only stat that matters is whoever wins the league, and that was Rangers. Hibernian here, the only non-Old Firm team leading these charts, and that was with the most tackles won. So looks like they done something right there. And yeah, guys, that is the end of the season. So madness. Average possession, Rangers dominated possession. Well, so did the same amount as Celtic. So you know what I mean. There's no massive difference in there. You can see here's all the other stuff. I mean, nothing really insane to see here. But yeah, Rangers have won. What about transfers? Who did they bring in? Did anybody come in January? Let's see. Celtic. No, Cham left in January, so interesting. They brought in Aurelien Tchouaméni from Monaco in January, 4.3 million. Didn't really help. Rangers brought in Nathaniel Klein on a free. Bruno Davison left Celtic. Bunch of players from out on loan. But guys, at the end of the day, it simply wasn't good enough for Celtic and Steve Clarke, and they just could not get the job done. Steve Clarke even upped his win percentage by a point to 63. But in the end, it's just they fell short, guys. They couldn't get the win. They did win a Betfred Cup, so at least they're not ending the season trophyless. But 10 in a row will not happen. Steven Gerrard secures it for Rangers, and Celtic have to go back to starting for 0. I know there's a lot of Celtic fans that think they can just win it the year after, but unfortunately, guys, that's not how this works. So, yeah. Until next time, that's going to do it. So, Steve Clarke, not successful in winning 10 in a row, but he certainly didn't do a bad a job as Neil Lennon. And who knows? I mean, perhaps, I don't think did he really do a bad enough job to be sacked? I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Celtic kept him on. I mean, it was only 5 points behind Rangers. Let's be real here. So there wasn't that much in it, and he did win a Betfred Cup, and he got them into the second knockout round of the Europa League, and they only got knocked out there because they came up against a good Villarreal side. But anyway, guys, that's it for this experiment there. Celtic couldn't win 10 in a row, and let us know if there's anything you want us today on Football Manager in terms of experiments, and I'll be happy to do it. But from me, from Steve, Sir Clarke, and from Celtic, and from the not 10 in a row club, you have to settle for 9. That's it. Till next time. Peace.